Okay, I gotta get it off my chest. This is the best episode yet of My Dress Up Darling. That's probably going to change as more episodes come out, and I'll probably have a new favorite, but just looking at what this episode gave all of us, the watchers, and probably gave manga readers, to the animation and art quality, to the just beautiful build-up with the characters of, Kitagawa and Gojo, to Juju's more active role in the story, to seeing a different type of side to Kitagawa, more romance side of her. It's a really good episode, and there's a lot here in this episode that you can unpackage, but also it kind of skirts around cliches as well, which I'm about to talk about. So let's get right into that. For one, I want to talk about the food scene. I think this is one of the biggest moments of the episode personally for me, in terms of showing how the series tries to skirt around the typical cliche, because I think everybody that's watched anime has probably seen it time and time again. You'll have a beautiful anime girl that, is perfect in almost every single way, but when she tries to make food, it's just outright disgusting. This is something that has been a common cliche in anime for a very long time. It usually happens a lot in romance slice of life shows. So typically, that this series would eventually try to go down that route. It would go down the route of, Kitagawa probably not being able to cook good whatsoever. I expected it at this point in time. However, the outcome of that is something that I truly appreciated, because yes, Kitagawa obviously isn't like a chef. She isn't a crazy good cook, but she isn't outright terrible, because here's the thing when it comes to cooking, etc. Now, once again, I want to clarify from my perspective, I'm no chef either. I'm not like a crazy good cook either. But when you try to cook food, you can at the very least make it edible. You can make it at least edible and good enough to where you'll be like, oh, this is pretty good and all that. That type of emotion. You're not going to say, oh man, this is some gourmet 5-star restaurant stuff, but you'll be like, this is pretty good. So even someone that hasn't cooked much probably could make something that is rather tasty, especially something with like fried rice and eggs and stuff. That isn't really too difficult. And so when you see anime typically have all the food completely tarnished, ruined, etc., it's a little bit unbelievable how far they try to stretch that to where how it is. And yes, it's used for comedic purposes, and it's a cliche. It happens. That's anime for you. But when you see, Kitagawa, she makes the food, and she's all happy, everything's looking good, the food's looking good, everything looking like it's turning out. So it's keeping with the theme that she's a perfect girl. And so usually when you see that food, when it's actually delivered to, let's say, the character, Gojo in this case, the food would look really good, but when he eats it, it's outright nasty. But that's obviously not the case. Once Kitagawa tried to plate the food and all that, it looked terrible. It did not look like it was put well together. The food was just slapped on a plate, and she put sorry because she felt very bad about it. She was under the realization that it didn't look as good as it did in her head, and she was aware that she wasn't perfect, which opens up Kitagawa's character that she isn't flawless, that she doesn't believe she's flawless. She believes that, she isn't perfect, which I know this makes common sense. Yeah, of course she isn't perfect, but it's so much. It goes an extra mile when the character realizes this and says it to us, the audience, and herself and all that. It allows us to get a better understanding for the story. So when you see her realize she messed up, and then she gives it to Gojo, and she's like, look, you don't need to eat it and all that. I know it's probably bad, and he eats it. The general reaction you would see from this point forward with a common cliche is that the food's outright terrible, but Gojo eats it because, out of respect, which anyone should eat out of respect. But the point though is that usually it might be outright terrible. But Gojo actually enjoys it, and he even critiques and talks about what she put in it, and showed genuine interest, which I think once again goes an extra mile to show that it's skirted around the cliche of the perfect girl, or perfect looking food that's outright nasty, but the food didn't look like nasty. It just looked like, it was just slapped onto a plate, but it was good. So yeah, that scene in particular really stood out to me, because it really offers a lot about Kitagawa's character. And since I'm on the topic of her character, this is a perfect segue to talk about what happened early on in the episode with the contacts. So I realized this very early on when I was looking at the preview images of the episode yesterday that came out, and when I looked at it, I noticed, wait a minute, Kitagawa's eye color changes. And I showed the images on social media, and I had no confirmation, because obviously I'm an anime only, so I don't know, but when I looked, I was like, her eyes are brown, and her regular eye color is this from what we knew so far. Like, her eye color is different. It's like a reddish, like, pinkish looking color. And so when you see how she has, like, complete brown eyes, there's two ways to take this. Either A, she's doing a cosplay session, and she's putting on different colored contacts to, you know, prep up for a cosplay, or that's her actual natural color. And so when you see Gojo knock on the door, and, you know, we get to see Kitagawa, obviously she looks, you know, I guess, as exposed as ever. She doesn't really care. She's very shameless, basically, about the way her appearance overall is, the way she just answers the door, and Gojo obviously has a reaction to it. But the biggest indicator about this is that when she notices Gojo's look, she gets self-conscious, she looks at herself, and she notices that she doesn't have contacts in. And this reveals that she is very self-conscious about her image, which I guess makes sense. I mean, anyone that's probably into cosplaying and wanting to dress up would be very self-conscious about how they feel. But one of the big things that's the outliner there is that she gets conscious about her eyes, and that's what's really strange to me, because when we look at her character, like if we want to just unravel everything we know so far from Kitagawa, she, like I've already said many times in many of my different videos, she's shameless. She's willing to just show literally cleavage. She's willing to basically not really care that Gojo is sizing her up and seeing, you know, her exact sizes all over the place. Yeah, she did get embarrassed that episode, but overall, she was still willing to allow it to happen. And so when you see her get very embarrassed and she closes the door, rushes off, and has to put her color contacts in, it gives us a very different impression of her, that she is very self-conscious about her image, which is a complete difference to what we've seen so far from her character. So I am curious on what is going on there, because there is definitely something that's probably happened to Kitagawa for her to actually be afraid of someone seeing her normal eyes. It can be two different things. It could be because she really cares and loves Gojo, which we know she does, and she just doesn't want Gojo to have this false image broken that she has this different colored eyes, or she's just self-conscious about her brown eyes, and maybe to her, she thinks that it's very unappealing, or something that's very plain or basic and not anything relatively interesting. Maybe that's how she feels about it. That could be the case. So, once again, we got a lot of Kitagawa stuff this episode that really developed her character, allowing us to see more of her emotion and how she feels about herself personally. Which, speaking about how she feels about herself personally, in the kitchen, when we have that whole scene where she's making food, going back to that, she mentions that, oh, I wasn't actually wearing, like, a bra. That's what she says. And she's like, I know Gojo didn't notice it. So when she talks to herself and says that, she is implying to us, the audience, and to herself that Gojo obviously will never notice that she is not wearing, like, a bra on. Which obviously we know he noticed, and the audience noticed because it was front and center. Which is a big indicator as well that she doesn't, like, it's so weird about her character. I don't really know how to get it. It's going to take a bit for me to really think about her overall personality and how she feels, but for her to be so self-conscious about her eyes, but then not be aware she's not wearing, let's say, a bra, and she doesn't think Gojo noticed, I don't know how to really look at Kitagawa as a character. Like, I don't want to say that she's like an airhead or anything, but I feel like there's just something going on with her character. I don't really know. It's like, either A, she just doesn't think she maybe is attractive or something, I don't know, or she doesn't think that Gojo would look at her, or, you know, maybe she's just so focused on her eyes, it's the only thing that she really cares about. There's a lot of things I can take away from that, but I really do like what this episode did for her character amongst everything else, the little shenanigans going on and the little fun and all that. It's a good episode for that. So let's back up for a second and let's talk about another scene. Let's talk about the anime watching scene. I think the anime watching scene is something in particular that stands out to me, because the reason why is if you look at the format of, you know, the episode that was being shown within an anime, for instance, like, you know, the whole, you know, magical girl type anime that Kitagawa and Gojo was watching, it's obviously a reference to Sailor Moon. It's clear as day what it's actually referencing. But I want to talk about the actual format of it. It literally looks like 480p in terms of the box quality. I'll show it on screen, you can see it for yourself. And on top of that, the actual art style, there's two ways you can interpret it. It looks like an anime within an anime, but also has that genuine line work that you would see from, let's say, a 1990s anime. It really does give that vibe from it, and I appreciate the level of detail that went into that scene, or the scenes in particular, because it's like, they went that extra mile. They could have easily made it look like modern day anime, make it look like something that is nowadays what anime looks like, but they were willing to change their art style and shift it to what old anime used to look like, and I love that. I really do appreciate that little attention to detail that was thrown into this episode. Not many people, I think, are going to care too much about that, but to go as far as to make it like a box quality, like 480p, what used to be the normal format for anime, but also make the artwork look like an old anime, I love that. That's something I absolutely enjoy. So yeah, overall, the episode is really good. It has a lot more that happened with it. For instance, like Juju and, you know, her realizing just how, I guess, eccentric Gojo is, in particular when it comes to making cosplay outfits, like how the level of detail is and what he does about it, his sketches. It's insane. To also him being very much a novice when it comes to taking cosplay photos because he uses a phone camera instead of an actual camera. And I think that is also a very interesting thing to look at, is that Gojo is slowly progressing and learning, and if he's already this good, imagine how good he's going to be in the future as he continues to gain more and more experience. And I can't wait to see Juju's overall knowledge kind of be incorporated into the cosplay scene with Kitagawa and Gojo. I really am excited about that, because as someone that knows very limited information about cosplay, like I don't know everything, the full scope of everything that goes into it, I do like this little information we got throughout the episode. It's very educational, it's informative, and I always like stuff like that when I'm watching anime. But I guess I'm gonna end the video here. One quick thing I want to say, though, is that this episode was good, as I said, and I love this series. The animators and the whole staff is really just giving it their all. It's clear as day. I think no one can really deny the amount of love that this series is receiving, and I really do hope that the animators, you know, are getting the proper rest, because I really, really have to say, like, holy crap, the amount of detail and the movements and stuff, it's just out of this world. But okay, guys, you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. If you enjoyed this video, or if you enjoyed this episode of My Dress Up Darling, you know, let me know in the comments below. I would like to see your guys' thoughts. Your feedback is always something I look forward to. I love to talk with you guys. It makes me feel like we really have a community. And just, yeah, you all be safe. If you enjoyed the video, you know, leave a like. If you want to see more of my content in your YouTube feed, subscribe. And with that, guys, be safe, stay healthy, Chibi out.